As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.
Welcome to Wired to Hunt's Rut Fresh Radio, bringing you the latest reports from the Whitetail Woods. And now, your hosts, Casey Smith and Tyler Jones.
This is Rut Fresh Radio, brought to you by Vortex Optics, and today we're talking about paying it forward so you have big payoff with big bucks later in the season. Guys, there's been some hunting getting done, man. Here at the Element Crew, at the Wired to Hunt crew, there's been hunting going across the country, and we've talked a lot about it. Our good friend Mark Kenyon is joining us this week. Mark, how you feeling, man?
Hey, Casey, I'm good. I just got home a few days ago from my first whitetail hunt of the year, which is, great to kind of kick off the rust, get that in the books. And then my next hunt of the year kicks off in Michigan in just a few days on October 1st. So it's like Christmas. Best time of year is here, buddy.
How's old Rookie?
Rookie's dead.
Oh, is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, at least I'm 99% sure. He disappeared at the end of October last year, and I have not seen hide or hair of Rookie. So he's not on the radar anymore.
How does it make you feel? Are you excited to start with a clean template, or do you kind of miss having that target buck?
What's been nice about that area where Rookie was living is, I've been hunting that area for, 12 years now or something. And there's been like a dramatic improvement in the number of bucks that make it to older age classes. So, when I first started hunting there, like there would be one 3-year-old, and that would be the only buck. Like that'd be the best buck in the whole area, like in the 648-acre block that I could hunt, that other people hunted. Like that'd be the one deer we were seeing. And in the years since then, I've worked with some neighbors. I've passed a ton of deer. I've been working on trying to improve some things. I've gotten permission on other properties in the general area. And long story short, more and more folks are kind of letting younger deer go. And what that's led to is, now 10, 11, 12, 13 years later, when I used to have one 3-year-old, now this year I've got like multiple 4-year-olds and a 5-year-old and several 3-year-olds. Wow. So if one of them gets whacked, I'm not too bummed out because there's several other deer that, I know of and that I've been kind of following and keeping tabs on over the years too. So like this year I've got one buck that's a 5-year-old that I'm really interested in. And I've seen a ton, and then another 4-year-old that I saw a ton and passed a bunch. So those would be my top two. And then there's another 4-year-old that I saw some last year that I would take a crack at. And then a fourth buck that I'm like on the fence about. So that's awesome, for Michigan to have a bunch of deer like that get me excited and wake me up in the morning. So I'm not mourning the passing of Rookie too much because there's more food on the buffet.
Well, you better not podcast about this stuff too much because people are going to start, giving you Michigan guys the side eye when you say it's tough up there. It sounds like you got a few deer, man.
Yeah, man. It's all relative, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's not too bad. It's not too good. It's just right, I guess.
It's hunting. That's what it is, man. It's cool. And we are doing the opposite of target deer hunting. We're hunting any deer hunting at the moment. We're out, been chasing some deer around on public. Actually been just chasing the yellow line for most of the last 48 hours. I've slept about 3 hours in the last 48. So probably going to take a nap after we get done with this. But, we're running high on the adrenaline of big bucks. Had some encounters this morning in Nebraska on public ground. Tyler did some scouting today.
Yep. Saw a coyote. It's a good day. Good day. Heard a pheasant.
How close was he?
Oh, a long ways.
Oh man.
Good 300 at least for sure.
Oh, that's cool. And, it seems like here that food is king right now. And that's just the thing that you're hunting. Or actually, food and water. Is Michigan, do y'all have droughts there? Is that a thing that happens in Michigan? Or is it?
So, kind of going back to everything being relative, we do have droughts where there's long stretches without rain, and that can impact the crops. But we don't have droughts at the same scale as something like you might have down in Texas or folks out west have, where there's just no water. Our baseline water level is so high. There's water sources everywhere, at least in most parts of Michigan. There's ponds everywhere, there's streams everywhere, there's swamps everywhere. So even in the driest years, it's really hard for water to become a major limiting factor. So it's not, I'm not going to say it's never something I key on, but it's definitely not as high on my list as it might be in a place like Nebraska.
Yeah. It's probably more for you, just food plot production, I would think. You need the rains at the right time to make sure that the plots come up. Otherwise, just end up with a bare field. Yeah, here right now, man, it's the cattle tanks are where it's at. I watched 15 deer drink out of a cattle tank this morning. Wow. And definitely making some patterns off of that. And it feels good, man, just to be out in the woods making moves on deer is such a huge thing. You can get down in the dumps, like we were actually talking about, off the air a while ago, and not celebrate those small victories. And the thing that I like to celebrate is learning something. It really means something to get out there and to learn something about the way whitetail act and behave, and be able to use that in your hunting repertoire now and for forevermore. I kind of throw this actually back to, I killed a deer in Oklahoma late season last year, but in a drought, and he was on a water pattern in the evening. And actually that video is going to come out here in about a week or so, but without actually listen to your boy Tony talk about it and read some of his stuff and talk to him a lot about water hunting. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And sure enough, public land buck down. So just kind of, and it took me a long time to recognize water as a legitimate source of a thing to hunt. And then now we show up in Nebraska, and it's the first thing I'm looking at, because I have that experience. And I don't know, like you were saying about being positive, if you just get negative because you spook deer, you have a bad hunt or whatever, it can get in the way of your learning and actually focusing on the details that can help you.
Yeah, man. And, you mentioned how you saw some good bucks this morning, and I was thinking about, the same kind of things happening to me on my hunt I was just on. And what a great feeling it is when you do get eyes on a deer you want to take a crack at, or you get that little bit of intel that all of a sudden switches you from being down in the dumps to all of a sudden feeling like you're in the game. That feeling of, oh man, I'm in the game. That is such a great feeling. That's a win right there. That is so much. It's so exciting in the moment. And sometimes I let myself gloss over it. And I'm trying to get better at just being man, this is it. It's those little things along the way that make hunting so awesome. And so, man, soak it in. You're in the game, buddy.
Yeah.
It's a good day.
Let's go.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth.
Let's go.
Being in the game is I struggle, man, to have fun sometimes when I'm not in the game, when I don't have that feeling that you're talking about. Really, I feel like I have three levels almost, where there's this level of I can't figure out what the heck to do, and it's 4 p.m. early season. I got to just go do something, glass or whatever. And then there's a level of well, this could work, but this has been a tough hunt, and I don't really expect deer to do what I'm assuming they might do in this spot. And then there's the level of feeling real good about it and almost calling your shot, and that is just it is a special feeling, man. And even if it doesn't come together, usually those end up being pretty good hunts because you see a lot of deer or something like that because you felt good about it, So man, I don't know.
So true.
But I do struggle. I almost feel like I struggle early season mentally more than November and later because for one, obviously November anything can happen. And then later in the season, if I have a couple bucks under my belt, I'm feeling pretty satiated, and early season, I just have this I don't know. It's just like almost like a stress. You know what I'm talking about? And some people may not quite understand, but like I just feel like I'm spending a lot of money to go out of state and chase deer for a long time, and it's a difficult time to kill deer sometimes, depending on where you are and what kind of access you have and everything. And I just almost have this thing where it's not even like prove. It's something to prove, but it's not really anything to prove to anybody else. It's to prove to myself that I'm not wasting money and time. You know what I mean? So it's stressful.
I know what you mean. 2,000%. 2,000%.
Yeah. So how has your Idaho hunt been going, man?
So I don't want to give too much away because tomorrow's episode, like the main show, I'm going to dive into the details of it. But I'll give you, if you want it, I'll give you like a 1 through 10. As far as like what activity was like.
Okay. Yes.
And then I can give you a little bit more of a, just like a deer report. I'm going to save my personal details. I'll give you the generic details.
Okay.
And I would
we don't want to hear what you and Josh had to do, extracurricular wise. Just tell us about the deer,
I also know you're a lumper. So this deer report doesn't include trout or anything, does it? Or
no, I can give you a trout report too because we dabbled there.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to pick me up. That's what I told Josh, dude. You see me a picture of a trout, I was like, dude, sometimes you got to go just catch a trout, man.
There's no doubt Mark had the Howler Bros hat on for sure, dude.
You know me too well. So on a scale 1 to 10, I'd put overall deer activity like a 5. There was deer activity, and what was very interesting is that where there was heavy deer hunting pressure, and this should be no surprise, where there was heavy hunting pressure, the activity was much, much lower and much, much later. But we had an interesting location where we were at, where we could be hunting on this public land that was getting pounded. I mean, just like pillaged. And then right across the road was some private land where there was obviously no hunting pressure. And so on the public land that we were hunting, we weren't seeing deer till the last 20, 10, 5, 3 minutes of daylight. I mean, the very end. And we had to, at times, finally, throughout the course of the week, I was pushing further and further and deeper and more aggressive. And finally was, finding deer, way, way back, like on the edge of the river and the farthest back reaches of possible bedding cover. And those deer were still not getting out of their beds till 3 minutes before dark. Sorry. So that was the activity level in the public. But right across the road, 500 yards away, there were shooter bucks, mature bucks, feeding in the middle of alfalfa fields at noon.
Dadgummit.
So there'd be like 20 deer out in the middle of an alfalfa field, within range, within sight of the public land, and I could see these deer on the other side of the road, out there living their best life. So, the deer are on the feeding patterns if they're comfortable and not being chased around all over the place. Where they were being chased around, they're moving very, very late. There's deer still feeding on alfalfa. There were also some deer feeding on corn and actually living in cornfields right now adjacent to public land. We started realizing that a lot of these deer had been pushed off the public into the private cornfields as like a sanctuary.
Yeah.
So those are some things we noticed.
Well, Josh sent me a picture of a buck that is no longer moving too. So not even in the last few minutes of daylight. So
we found some dead ones that folks had hit and not recovered.
Yeah.
Really? Golly, man. That stinks. So before, I think the last time we talked to you, we talked about how y'all were going to head out a little bit later in September to try to avoid the opening pressure and stuff. Do you feel as if you would do that again, or is that something that you think kind of is kind of on the out and out now?
So our theory was wrong in this case, because maybe it would still work if we pushed later, but we didn't push late enough, possibly because what ended up happening was that there was still hunting pressure even in the third week of September. So we didn't get away from the hunting pressure, but the extra downside was that now we were not enjoying those first few days of the season when deer were still acting dumb. So in the past 2 years, we'd have 2, 3, 4 days where these deer, even though there was pressure now, they were still living a good life and they weren't, changing things up dramatically. So we were seeing them. Now we arrived 20 days, into hunting pressure for these deer, and they had already gone back to their bunkers and like it's a war zone for them. So we had none of the, easy daylight bucks floating around thinking that it's safe and free anymore. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting hunt that I'll get into the full scoop on tomorrow, but there was nothing easy. Like in previous years, we were seeing big bucks, like not too far from the food sources, 45 minutes before daylight. Even on public land. Now we were going back 2 miles to get to that, but now we had to go further back, deeper, and like in the freaking trenches to find anything.
Well, so goes public sometimes, but I'm glad you guys got to hang out and do the hunt again. You never know when Josh is just going to ditch out on you. So
you never know. I mean, and man, we had some good discoveries, some good lessons learned, and I'm not gonna tell you what happened, how it ended, but there might be a little twist at the end. Tune in tomorrow to find out.
Fancy.
Right,
tune in tomorrow to find out what happened.
I hope it's not like a grizzly attack or something, but hope you guys are all right.
I'm still kicking.
Yeah, you are. We don't know about Josh. He might be a hologram that's over there on Instagram right now. Well, so I'm glad that you guys had a good hunt, man, together, and sounds like we're going to get to hear more of that on the main show here shortly. So I'm looking forward to that. This week we actually have on the Rut Fresh, we have Tony Peterson in Wisconsin. We all know him pretty well. One of our friends, Nick Gonzalez, killed a nice public land buck in Arkansas. Jesse Richard with a report from Iowa, and our good friend Matt Dye from Land and Legacy in Missouri. He was a part of a big buck kill there. So we're looking forward to hearing from these guys. Let's go ahead and get to the interviews. All right, on the phone now, Tony Peterson from Meat Eater. You guys are familiar with this guy. Tony, you've had success in Wisconsin recently.
Yeah, I took my daughter over, one of my twin daughters over, I should say, on opening weekend, and we fought the mosquitoes and the spiders and the stupid humidity and the heat, and ended up killing a spike. So it worked out pretty well.
It's good, man. That spike is about as clean of a spike as I've seen, it looks like.
Yeah, he's a clean one. And now my other twin daughter, I'm taking her this weekend, and she said, we gotta get one with at least 3 points, Dad.
I was wondering if there's like a jealousy factor there at all.
Oh man, big time. And she killed a forky last year. So this daughter that killed this weekend, that was her first buck. So she's stoked.
Oh man.
But now her sister's like, I need to do just a little bit better. So I showed her a picture of a little 4-pointer that we have coming into that same plot. And she said, Dad, do those little ones in front, do those count as points? Yeah. I said, yeah, that one will beat your sisters if you kill them.
Oh, awesome, dude. Well, so you were fighting mosquitoes. Is it above like normal temperatures, or has it been? Is it pretty warm?
Oh man, it was way above our normal seasonal temperatures. And it was, we get such humidity up here that, it's weird when you go out in the morning and it had rained the night before the opener. So everything was wet anyway, but just the humidity was like 100%. And, you kind of expect to go out and have it be kind of chilly and maybe see your breath in the morning, even if it's going to get pretty warm in the day. But it was like 65 degrees in the dark. I mean, which is, pretty unusual for us this time of year.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that's been affecting the deer much, or are they pretty much still just in normal early season patterns?
Man, I don't think it affected the deer that much, really. I think what it did was kept a lot of people at home, because I don't know if I've ever had an opener, in my home state of Minnesota or over in Wisconsin, where I've seen fewer trucks and field drives and stuff where you're like, that's definitely a hunter. I didn't hardly see that last weekend.
Yeah.
So Tony Peterson, the mobile hunting aficionado, how do you manage to slow it down and make a hunt fun for your girls, man?
Man, it is like so hard for me to just go, basically we're turkey hunting, right? Like we're sitting in blinds, and it's like, get on a good spot and ride out as many hours as you can. And it's rough, but with the girls, they can't do the mobile thing yet. It just wouldn't work. And so I'm like, this is just what I'm doing. But what does help with that is we are hunting any deer.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like you're sitting there and you're going, it's 140 or bust or whatever. It's like, if a deer walks by here, we're going to shoot at it. And that makes it a little more tolerable because you're like, you're probably not going to have to put in tons and tons of time before that happens. But, we hunted 8 hours on Saturday, never saw a deer. And Sunday we got out there and an hour into it, that spike came in. So we saw a deer and killed it.
Wow. Well, that's efficiency at its finest, man. So congrats on that. Across the country, it seems that massed fall is starting to happen. And I know different areas of the country is going to be a little bit different, but acorns, as we call them, are falling here and falling across the South. I know for sure from some other buddies. Is that affecting some of the patterns that you've kind of been setting up on for a hunt like this?
I would say that played a pretty big role. I didn't expect to see a lot of deer anyway, because I just wouldn't in those setups. Mm-hmm. But, we've got a pretty good hard mast thing going on right now. And the apples and the soft mast over there where I was hunting in Wisconsin are definitely playing into it. And I know just from checking cameras before the opener, my sightings went way down. Mm-hmm. And, there could be other reasons, there you might have a pack of wolves or something come through that kind of kills it for a little while. But I suspect what was happening was a mass situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So going forward, you in Wisconsin, do you feel like that that's going to continue to change things up, or is it going to actually get consistent for guys that move their cameras and react to that kind of stuff?
It's so variable, but the mass thing, it comes and goes usually pretty quick. And I see this happen so much because I hunt a lot of early season stuff where it's a pretty big factor in the first couple weeks. And then you kind of tack on the initial hunting pressure. And so I look at the forecast going forward, and I look at the reality that the mass is going to get eaten up a little bit. And I just think it's going to get really, really good. And I actually like, where we're hunting over in Wisconsin and some of my places in Minnesota, I like, about 2 weeks into the season when the acorns aren't really affecting it as much and the apples aren't, and the people are kind of giving up until the rut. There's a good time there, especially on public land, to get out and figure one out when, most people just aren't doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that you love to get out there and capitalize on some of that lower pressure time of year like this. So as you look forward to the next year with, kind of fall continuing to progress and maybe some things changing, deer starting to slowly push more into that more testosterone type mentality, what do you predict deer movement to be like, especially buck movement on a scale from 1 to 10?
Ooh, I'll give it a 7.
Ooh, it's a good number.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get good, man. And I think that a lot of people in their head, they think it's not going to get there yet. But, that situation where we're hunting over in Wisconsin, when those really localized food sources dry up, they kind of got to work. There's a lot of browsing going on and a lot of big wood stuff. So they cover ground, and you know how it is when bucks start covering ground, they start leaving you some sign to work with. And I think it gets almost a little bit easier right at the beginning of October, end of September to figure out what they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Well, that's really cool. That's exciting. Such an exciting time of year for all of us anyways. And then a guy like Tony starts throwing out some big numbers as far as like Hype Fest, man. It's about time to roll. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, here's the deal, guys. And you know this. Even if I said I think it's going to be a 1, you still should go hunting.
Yeah, buddy.
Honestly, if you would have asked me on Friday night before the opener what the deer movement's going to be like and what the buck movement's going to be like, I would have maybe said a 1 or a 2 just to give it a little bit of grace for the opening weekend. They haven't been hunted yet, but it would have been a low number, and it's still worth going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They have to exist somewhere, man. And I think a lot of guys forget that, and they try to time it out right. And for sure, you have to balance your time off versus, time with family and then time in the woods. So put all those numbers together, and you can come up with a real good reason to not go to the woods. But I tell you what, man, there's never a better time than now to go out and capitalize. So, Tony, we appreciate the update, dude, and I hope you have a great rest of the season.
Awesome. Thank you, fellas.
Okay, on the phone now, Nick Gonzalez. You're actually from Texas. You're a friend of ours, local to us, but you have been up in Arkansas doing some deer hunting. How's everything going right now, man?
I'm on cloud 9 right now.
There you go.
successful weekend hunt. So
that's awesome, dude. So you're just kind of breaking down what you got going on from that hunt, basically, right? And you got some meat and you got a bunch of trash everywhere, it sounds like.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's crazy how much trash you can accumulate in a truck in just 2 days of hunting and camping just with one buddy.
Yep. So you have done what seems about near impossible to me at this point, but you've shot a public land buck in Arkansas, and it's a toad,
in
man.
September.
In September,
nonetheless, dude.
Holy,
wow.
Yeah.
How'd you do that, man?
Well, my buddy and I went up there in January, did some scouting. We did a little bit of hunting to have a late season there. Actually came and talked to you guys and looked at the Onyx maps and just kind of picked out some locations. So obviously with Onyx, you can see, the topography and everything else, but it's good to just get boots on the ground out there. So that's what we did. We went out there and did some scouting. Liked the location that we were at. Didn't see a whole lot, just late season and everything. But I saw that they had a September opener there in Arkansas, so I wanted to give it a shot. I did not expect to get a buck, I can tell you that much. But anything would have been great for me, just to get a September deer. So definitely started with Onyx and then just getting some boots on the ground. So
yeah, that's cool, man. So when you went up there in September this time, got boots on the ground in that early season stuff, what did you see that made you decide to hunt where you did?
So I found a pretty clean looking creek. It was close to private, and they had a feeder set up over there. I don't know that it was being used or not, but it was just a really good water source for the deer there. It's kind of a good little funnel point just because it was real tall pasture on one side, and then some good oak flats in the bottom. But this particular area was real green, had some good grass, and then it had a pretty hard edge of trees beside it where you could tell that was probably where they were bedding. So they were definitely cruising through this little funnel area by the creek, to get some food. And so that was kind of the game plan was, hopefully they would come out of their beds to come get some food. And ultimately that's what happened.
Did you feel like that deer were eating acorns while you were there?
The buck that I shot was eating acorns as I shot him.
Oh man, that's cool.
What were they? Just could you tell what kind of oaks they were?
I'm not a tree guy like you guys. I really don't know what kind of oak it was, to be honest with you.
That's as long as there's a tasty acorn on the ground, it's a good place to set up.
Yeah. Now too that they like them acorns right there, and it's a good spot to kill deer too.
That's it, man. So, that's cool.
Yep.
So was he was basically just cruising to eat. He wasn't, when you say cruising, he wasn't like rut cruising by any means, or was he?
No, he was not.
Okay.
He came in with another buck. He came in with probably a little 3-point, who I saw first.
You didn't want to shoot that one?
The rules are. I mean, if he was solo, I would have shot him just because he was the only one I saw at first. But then I saw the antlers on the other one turn. I said, I'm not worried about that other guy.
Dude, how fast was your heart beating, man?
It was pounding pretty good. I can say that much.
That's your first buck with a bow?
That's my first buck with a bow.
Dude.
Yeah. It's I hadn't done a ton of archery hunting. It really mostly recently is when I've done archery hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
First time I got one. So
congrats on that, dude. It's so awesome. How far was the shot?
He was about 25.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in pretty close.
Yeah.
I was up in that cruiser saddle, and I gotta say, if anybody does any public land hunting, that is absolutely the way to go. Just saddle hunting in general, because he came in at a good angle, and you can move all around that tree without making any noise. Neither one of them had any idea that I was there, so it worked out perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, that's too cool.
So that's an awesome story, dude, and I'm super pumped for you. Just knowing you as a friend and knowing kind of your journey as a hunter, that's just so cool to see you go up there and do that. If other guys kind of like you trying to go out there and be weekend warriors, right now we have a kind of a cool front pushing through the country, a little bit of weather in the Gulf, but looking forward to the weekend here. What do you predict deer movement being like, specifically buck movement, on a scale of 1 to 10, kind of for this upcoming week?
it's kind of hard to say. Just we're still early season, but with this cool front coming in, I think it's upper 40s possibly going to be over there. It could be. I mean, I'm definitely going to be hunting, and I would definitely recommend getting out there. Probably maybe around 7 or so.
That's exciting.
As far as movement goes.
Ooh, that's pretty good, dude.
Yeah.
7's that gets me pumped.
7's a great number.
I know,
man.
dude.
I love it.
It's biblical number, right?
It's
good
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's why he chose it.
Do you think that acorns, however people want to say it, is kind of the key right now as far as bed to feed goes?
It seems like it. I mean, they're just now really starting to produce. We saw quite a bit on the ground, just in different various spots, and that's definitely what both of these deer were targeting. So, I would hone in on the acorns for sure.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I'm if I don't kill tonight, I'm going to be honing in on some acorns too. So, I appreciate you hopping on, dude. Appreciate your friendship, and I'm really just proud of your accomplishment, man. It's an awesome thing. I know it's a great feeling. I've felt it before, and it's hard to beat. So, congrats on everything, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, way to go, Nick.
Appreciate it.
As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.
All right, now we've got Jesse Richard from Outdoor X Media. Jesse, how you doing this morning, man?
Oh, not too bad. It's good temperature for this time of year. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's different down here in Texas. For some reason, everybody in the world is getting cold fronts, and Texas is sitting here 90-something degrees every day. So we're burning up, but it's good that you guys are getting some weather. I'm sure that's helping the deer movement. Now, you're trying to stay in whitetail shape right now, right? This isn't mountain shape or elk shape or anything, is it?
Yeah, no, this is it's also college football season, so you have to kind of you go to the gym a couple days of the week so you can tailgate and have a few and eat some horrible food during the weekend. So it's a never-ending battle.
Yep. So are you a Cyclone guy or a Hawkeye guy?
I'm a Hawkeye guy. It hasn't been too awesome this year, but you got to stay loyal. It'll turn back around.
That's right.
I really like you guys' logo, man. Y'all have a cool logo.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally wear a shirt like that.
Hawk.
What's that?
The Tiger Hawk.
Yeah, dude. So cool. But so we're with the weather, with football season, one of the things that makes fall just the best time of year is that also you start getting cold fronts, things start changing, and the deer start moving. And you actually experienced this recently. You guys have been out, I think, quite a bit lately, hunting, and your daughter shot a really nice, what is it, an 8-point?
It's a 10-pointer. He's got short G4s. But yeah, our full season, our archery season opens up October 1st, but youth season's been open for about a week now. So,
And for those who are listening, this is Iowa. This is This is where people dream of going. You guys live there. So I've been kind of following what you've been doing, and you've been posting some trail camera pictures and stuff like that. Now, lately, is there a reason that you feel like you guys were successful? Was there a weather pattern or a moon phase or anything that helped you out there to find success, or was it something in the trail cameras that you were able to see that led you to kind of find out this is a pattern we should key in on?
Yeah, so this particular farm is owned by one of my buddies. It's a 40-acre chunk. It's mostly ag, but has one pretty decent draw. And we have standing beans, and I put in probably a 3/4 acre brassica plot. And this farm actually got rain. We've been in a horrible drought up here, one of my other farms that's less than 5 miles away, until recently had 2 inches of rain in 3 months. So trying to get food plots to grow were horrible, but this particular farm just caught all the little ones that the other one missed. So the food on it's been really good. We run a bunch of cell cameras. I think I have 40 to 50 myself on multiple different farms. And this is one of the deer that was pretty regular on the cameras. So we knew that he was around and in the area, and he's a mature deer. I don't know exactly how old he is. He's 5+ based off of all the characteristics, but my other daughter hunted the same blind a week ago. So it was last Sunday, and we didn't see him, but when we were walking out, he was in the food plot by the time we got out of the blind and were walking out. So he was 10 minutes late. So I knew that it was a weather issue, because it was probably 91 degrees when we got into the blind last week, and it was 64 degrees on Thursday when she shot the deer.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a good cold front, man. That's the kind of stuff that makes you excited for sure.
Yeah, we've had this short little burst come through. We had that hiccup of 90s plus degrees, and then it slowly dropped off. Friday was good also. Today looks really good, but it's going to warm back up for a couple days here in Iowa to upper 80s, mid 80s, something like that. So it's September. It's that weird time of year where you get those highs and lows.
Yeah, for sure. So congrats to y'all again on that great buck and the opportunity to get out in the stand with your daughter and put her on a deer. That's really awesome, man. As we look forward to that October 1 opener that you referenced there, do you feel like food and water are going to be some of the key things that people need to be thinking about there across the central Midwest?
So I don't know about everywhere else, but we have had an absolute amazing mass crop this year. The acorns are, I've bow hunted for over 20 years, and I can't remember a mass crop like this. I mean, there are acorns on trees that haven't had acorns, and they're dropping, and it's something else. So it's my personal cameras on a couple farms have been pretty dry recently. Between the deer shedding their velvet, I've always called it the September scramble. When they're shedding their velvet, the acorns are dropping. You get these weird weather patterns. I lose a bunch of bucks, I gain bucks, but I know they're still in the area. So if I don't have anything to go after, consistently, as close to daylight movement or something like that, I'm a big doe hunter. I'll go out whenever I can and start filling the freezer.
That's cool. That's exciting, man. So, does are good for freezers, and bucks are also good for freezers and for having even more fun when you get to show off to your buddies, right? So as we think about maybe some buck hunting as well early this season, what do you predict the deer movement between a scale of 1 to 10 to be, specifically the buck movement as season opens there?
I think you're going to have your pockets of your home body deer that are going to consistently do the same thing. I've looked ahead to kind of the forecast, and we don't have a huge weather front coming through. We just kind of have a gradual fall weather, in the 70s for highs, 40s, 50s for lows, just kind of stagnant for almost the next 2 weeks. So it's kind of waiting to really go into your spot until you do get some sort of a weather front. A little, even a 10-degree temperature drop is huge to deer. It can get those deer on their feet, 10, 15, 20 minutes earlier, and get them to the food or into a transition point going to the food. It just really depends. And that's why we rely on trail cameras. I mean, the cell cameras are invaluable. They're a game changer.
Awesome, man. Well, so if you were going to show somebody this picture on social media, where would you send them just to let them see the picture of this big old buck that was shot?
I've had it on my social media pages. We posted probably the best one on the Outdoor X Media Facebook page, and I'm going to probably edit the hunt this week and have it up next week. I got everything on video. I've been filming for 15, 16 years consistently, and it's fun. My oldest daughter loved it. I don't think she's killed a deer or turkey off film since she's been hunting. She's 11, so she's got half a dozen deer and 3 or 4 turkeys underneath her belt already. So
that's awesome, man. Well, cool. So congrats on that. Tell her congrats, and we appreciate you hopping on the phone with us.
Yeah, not a problem.
On the phone now, I've got Matt Dye with Land and Legacy, and he has been hunting and filming in Missouri and filming some big old bucks, I think, man.
Man, I can't be more happy than honestly the way the season kind of kicked off for us here in South Central, Southwest Missouri. It's been awesome. Encounters with some really mature deer and then some really good up-and-comers and a lot of deer activity. So we had a great start to the opener.
That's cool, dude. So Missouri kind of has what I think is a unique opener in the country where it's like kind of mid to late September. And so you're not really hunting a true summer pattern, but it's not like fall pre-rut stuff, I wouldn't say. But why don't you explain to me a little bit more kind of what you had been seeing pattern-wise?
Absolutely. Yeah. September 15th every single year is opener. Doesn't matter what day it falls on. September 15th rolls around and bow hunters take to the woods. And it is that cool mix of still some summer pattern. We've got some transitions on food sources that happen pretty frequently during this time frame. So you're kind of catching that tail end of summer activity, but things are due to change really in a matter of a couple days as season opens up every single year. And just depending on temperatures, depending on whether you got a mass production or not that year, kind of determines if those bucks are going to stay on that summer pattern for longer or not. And this year we have a really big white oak acorn crop through much of the state, and we got kind of lucky that not a lot had fallen prior to that September 15th date, and they're hanging the tree a little bit longer. And so we don't have all that food source being available and on the ground. So most of the deer activity that we were hunting was definitely revolving around an alfalfa food source and then a brassica blend food source just right next to each other, probably about 2.5 to 3 acres. Deer were absolutely piling into both of those food sources.
Yeah, so you sound like you kind of have it pretty dialed. And I've known you for a while, man. You actually make your living in property management and, evaluating wildlife properties as a whole. So The place y'all were hunting, is that a place that you've put a lot of work into?
So this is a place that our good buddy Seth Harker, who I hunt a lot with and is part of kind of our team, from a filming and content standpoint, he has leased this place for 10, 12, maybe 15 years now. And he's a little limited on the amount of habitat manipulation that as an individual he can do. However, the landowner is very much into intense timber management. So Seth's kind of role as a leasee on this place is very much food plot oriented, but then there is a component of clear cuts. There's a component of thin timber, of edge feathering, of prescribed fire, of pine plantations on this given 500-acre place. And so although not everything is revolved around wildlife habitat manipulation like I do for our clients, it's still really good, and it's above average, let's say, from the habitat that it does offer. And then Seth's done a great job of supplementing that habitat with really successful food plot kind of regime. So
that's cool.
Every year it's pretty much lights out. Got a great age structure. And that's the thing too, if you're out there and you're listening, you don't have property to be that hands-on and manage, you could still have a lot of influence on the age structure, on the deer herd itself by what you're shooting, what you're not. So he's done a good job of that. And every year there's, 4, 5, 6 target deer on this place that are 140 inch and better.
That's enough to make me get the shivers for sure, dude. That's cool. So y'all actually capitalized on some of that, kind of mid-September action, I believe, and were able to shoot a really, really nice, speaking of age structure, buck, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that hunt?
Yes, absolutely. So the hunt kind of took place over the course of 4 days. We weren't able to get out the first day of season work schedule, and then we didn't want to push it because the wind wasn't just dynamite. And we said, you know what, let's just wait. The next day is going to be better. We're a little bit more free. So we didn't push the envelope day one, but we hunted the next 2 days consecutively. That was a Friday, Saturday. And we saw 30, 35 deer each night. And night number one, we had the buck that he ended up shooting, a 7.5-year-old 10-pointer, come strolling out 6:30. We had an hour of daylight left, and he's at basically 75, 80 yards. And the field is just full of deer, but the deer never comes within range during that night. And we're like, well, I'm not terribly upset. I mean, shoot, we saw a mature deer. We saw the target deer, really, that we're hunting. Let's just get back in here. Mm-hmm. And so same wind the next night, get in there. We ended up seeing another mature buck, and the one that we had hunted the night before came out in a different portion of the field, about 150 yards away, kind of went to a different food source. And we're kind of left with our head scratched a little bit like, man, as many deer piled in here, why didn't he come right back? But nonetheless, we saw a 4.5-year-old buck, probably close to 150-inch deer, and he didn't come within range either. So we kind of made a little bit of a judgment call. The wind was going to switch from southeast the first 2 days. For the next 2 days, it's going to be southwest. And hunting out of a saddle the first 2 nights, kind of on the west side of the plot. We've got a blind situated for a southwest wind on the other side. Made that gameplay. He took his son the next day, saw the original 7.5-year-old 10-pointer, and then that 4.5-year-old. They came into range right at last shooting light, and they're like, man, such another close encounter. They're pounding this food source. We got a good, clean entry and exit, and we're like, we're going to hunt it 4 nights in a row. Woo. Although temperatures, yeah, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty daring, but we weren't getting busted getting in and getting out, and while we were in the tree. So we're like, we're not really educating anything, so there's not a lot of harm, and we're playing the wind right. And normally don't tend to be that aggressive in early season, but at the same time frame, we're kind of trying to run the race with the acorn crop, knowing that, hey, it's a bumper crop this year. We don't want to push the envelope and try and wait out and try to give this field a little bit of rest. If they're still showing up during daylight, it's just a matter of time before they step within range during daylight hours too. Mm-hmm. So if they're coming, we're coming, and we got the right wind. So the 4th night we hunted, it was 93 degrees that day. It was the hottest day of them all. And we're like, man, this is warm. We're facing west as we're in this blind. But just like clockwork, here comes that one 4.5-year-old 150-inch deer. He comes out, starts feeding our direction. And then about 30 minutes before dark or last shooting light, right as the sun was setting, just to our left, about 65 yards away, here comes that 7.5-year-old 10-pointer, strolls out of the timber and directly into the plot, puts his head down, starts feeding. And fortunately for us, unlike the other nights, he made his way into the plot, kind of fed to the center of the plot much faster than other days, and closed the distance to 40 yards with about 10 minutes, 15 minutes of light left. And Seth made an excellent shot. But those deer were just kind of jockeying back and forth between the fall annual blend of radishes, turnips, and sugar beets, and that alfalfa. So he came within range, and he made a great shot. Deer went about 80 yards and piled up.
Ooh, man, you just got to love when they do that, dude. That's just a true testament of hard work, determination, and just, being committed to shooting mature bucks, and things like that pay off. And that is awesome. So as you look forward to, the next week here, as maybe those acorns do start dropping, what do you predict buck movement to be like, maybe on a scale from 1 to 10?
Well, I'm going to say, really looking at the weather that we've got low to mid 70s and cool nights down into the 40s for the next week. And that temperature swing day to day is going to be pretty good. And so I anticipate that deer, specifically mature bucks, they're going to be moving, but I want to throw caution out there too, is they're probably going to be moving as these acorns are falling in different locations than what they have for the last couple months, shifting from that kind of green field, soybean crop field, food plot clover deal into more of a timber situation. So although it may not feel like they're moving great on your cameras, you got to make sure that those cameras are in the right locations. They're over your white oaks that are dropping and producing, and you'll catch them there. They'll be there. And it's not that, hey, deer went nocturnal. It's just they've shifted patterns because we got a different food source here. I'm driving back from Kansas right now from consulting. And the other kind of thing to consider for a lot of guys, if you're not in timber country with a lot of mass production, is crops are changing. We got beans that are dropping leaves. We got corn that's coming out of the field. And so those are some considerations that you should have too, as, again, food sources are really changing this time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's all good stuff to consider. You're always a wealth of knowledge, dude. And I know you filmed that hunt as well. So real quick, tell everybody where they can find maybe some of that footage, and then also some other that knowledge that you boys at Land and Legacy have. Yeah.
If they want to see some of those harvest photos, definitely go check out Instagram and Facebook, Land and Legacy. That hunt is actually going to be on YouTube and potentially television next year. So kind of got a new thing happening there. So we'll have some more announcements on that. But do encourage people, if they like the habitat talk, they like manipulating their landscape for the betterment of whitetail hunting or turkey hunting, definitely check out podcasts. We do 2 podcasts a week here at Land and Legacy, and we're habitat nerds and plant nerds, but we love chasing big deer and kind of combined it all together.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome stuff. Thanks so much, brother. Really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely, man. Take care, and you be safe out there.
Guys, be sure and check the description below to see more about what we have going on, what Mark has going on, and some really helpful links that might help you as season gets started here. In particular, Mark has a pretty good article about making things fun, because it is important to have fun while you're out there. It keeps you rocking and rolling and having a good time and staying sharp on these deer. This is Rut Fresh. Keep it fresh.
As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.